Okay, hello and welcome. Talking about Moon Knight, episode 5. And, finally, we get some introspection about Mark and Steven's backstory. How Steven was created. I've just spoiled it, basically. Like I thought, Mark is the original person. He is the original. Steven is the fabrication. He is the lie. He's the lie. A liar. A phony. This episode was kind of crazy. It goes like back and forth between like Steven and Mark finding out more about each other's lives, and really it's more about Steven finding out what Mark's been hiding from him, because their lives are completely different. Steven, it's explained that Mark only brings out Steven when all the good stuff is happening, and he brings himself in when all the bad stuff is happening, which is like really well. Mark is that. I mean, Mark is being pretty selfless in that act. Like he intentionally somehow created another personality within him, has control of switching between these personalities, and then specifically uses himself as the he's the Mark. Not like his name, but like the like he is, maybe that's not the right word. He's the guy who takes all the pain, basically. And Steven's the gullible um he's the gullible nincompoop who doesn't really understand anything. And this you see this a lot, and throughout this whole episode, and some other things. First, I want to actually talk about like Oscar Isaac's performance. Is wow, Jesus, it's so good. Thank God. If this show would have been, I think, a lot worse if Oscar Isaac wasn't in it. I mean, he did such a good job of portraying both Steven and Mark, even at like the same time when they're talking to each other. It's obviously all green screen, but like the chemistry that these two personalities have with each other is almost heartwarming. It's like brilliantly acted. So kudos to Oscar Isaac. He did a great job. I love it. There's some weird things with this episode. The weird thing is they keep like going back. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like from episode 4, right at the end of the episode. They make it seem like Mark and Steven are at the institution. The institution is just a front for this at the afterworld, and the Egyptian afterworld, where they currently are, and the reason it's a psych ward is because it's familiar to them. But like in the episode, they intentionally like go back to the place where it's confusing. I'm not even. It's really confusing. You gotta watch the episode. It's almost like the episode's still trying to bull bait you into thinking that whatever's happening with Steven and Mark isn't real, even though it still is, real and quote unquote, because they keep going back to Doctor Harrow, and he's telling him, yes, you gotta let yourself be you. You gotta bring out Steve, and you gotta bring out Mark. You guys gotta talk to each other. It's really weird. I wasn't a fan of that. I'm repeating it over right now. It's like I'm confusing it myself because it's such a they're doing really weird concepts with it. Yeah, I don't think they like intentionally know what they're doing because it's not making a whole lot of sense. Not that like because I think that portion of it is pointless because we all know that what's happening is happening because these are characters that we've been going through this entire show right now. It is real. I'm still not convinced that Steven or Mark is actually in a psych ward. That's not actually happening at all. So that's all I gotta say about that before I like confuse myself any further. So again, we go on this like real trip where they need Stephen and Mark need to see each other's memories in order to balance the scales of their hearts so they can go into paradise. The hippo is like the benefactor of this. She's the one like driving the boat that they're on, and she's the one like she's the guide. Yes, she's like the river Styx, like the guide basically. She's not really in control of anything. So that the whole episode is spent on balancing the scales. Um, I'm not sure how what it means to like balance the scales, and in order to balance them they have to like see each other's memories, or Steven in particular has to see the memories of Mark that he doesn't know about. Um, and it's that portion is kind of strange. I don't know how that makes sense. Uh, Regardless, I'm happy that we finally got some introspection on their backstory. So basically, the backstory is Mark had a brother. They went into this cave. They were just exploring as kids. And Mark's brother died, and his mom has a huge conniption fit. She basically blames Mark his entire life. She beats him regularly. It's assumed regularly. And as a kid, and this is when she like viscerally hates him. She literally just blames him for his brother's death, and it's terrible. It's sad, and at this point, we get there's this whole thing about going into the room where Mark creates Steven, and the way he creates Steven is a lot less dramatic than I thought it would be. I guess it's because like a child actor did it, so the way he created him, his eyes just roll up the back of his head, and oopsie, British accent now. So for some reason, this happened when. So it is confirmed that Mark created Steven as a child to cope with the fact that his mom was a meanie, being a big stinky beanie, and now Mark, I guess Mark, like Steven is the cope to Mark. Even though Mark is the one who like takes all the onus on himself and like his mother's fury, but Steven doesn't get that part. It's Mark has been leaving Steven out of those traumatic moments. He wanted Steven to believe that his mother was nice, while Mark takes all that pain, which is wow, very selfless of Mark. Very selfless. Even like it's shown throughout this episode too that Mark's done some bad things. He's killed a lot of people. Um, Obviously, killing is wrong, even if the person is like a rapist or a murderer or whatever. Moral judgments. You can think of whatever you want to think about that. That's your thing. Um, and we get the scene where Mark finds Conju. Mark was literally about to kill himself after being injured, and Conju's like, "No, don't do that. Be my warrior." Mark's like, "Oh yeah, okay." It was pretty easy. Conju had like two sentences telling Mark like, "No, no, no, be my warrior. We'll kill all the bad people." Mark's like, "Okay, that's fine." pretty pretty easy. So we should I want to really talk about more about the introspective parts of this episode, like the deep meaning between like what Mark did, um um what he did, how he protects Steven from himself or their selves, and how that work, how like Mark as a character, how does he how does he see the world around him, and it's we don't get that. We really just get Mark doing these things because his mom was being a terrible mother, beats him regularly, and then he basically leaves his home to go do whatever miscellaneous things he's doing, being a mercenary and killing people. Steven, we don't get much of Steven's memories at all, actually. I guess Steven's memories aren't technically important because he has no big impact on either Mark or Steven as a whole. It's really just Mark and the way how he like handles that pain. Other than that, we get the scene where like Mark and Stevens at their mother's death is confirmed now that his mom died. We get like the bleeding into like each other's lives and how their memories are now being more connected, and that was apparently 2 months before the start of the show. So that happens relatively quickly. This whole like story about Ahmet, like where does Ethan Hawke come into all of this, and apparently, how is Ethan Hawke? How did he become the first avatar of Kanji? Maybe not the first, but before Mark. There's a lot of. I think there's still a lot of questions that are going to be answered, especially with what's happening right now. It is also confirmed that Mark and Steven were shot. They are dead. So again, the place they are, it is the afterlife. The hippo is guiding them, and then they're on the boat, and this weird shit happens because the scales aren't balanced by the end of their journey. By the end of the journey, I mean they have to get to the gate of Osiris, I think. And by that time, if your scales aren't balanced, the sand people, the Tuscans, come out of the ground onto the boat and drag you down there with them. um, there's this whole fight. There's only like three sand people that come onto the boat, and fucking Steven ends up like beating the shit out of them somehow. They're just sand. What are they doing? Why aren't there like infinity more of them to like take both of them down? Whatever. Steven saves Mark this time. He saves him. Um, he fights off the same people, but Steven ends up getting pushed off into the desert where he becomes a solid sand statue. Is the best I can explain it. And now because Steven is not there anymore, he's a sand statue. The scales are now balanced, and Mark ends up in paradise, which is the goal. Even though that's not the goal. The goal is to get back to life and be Ethan Hawke and kill a Met, whatever. But I guess we're gonna go from there because that's the end of the episode. We find paradise. By the way, paradise is just a wheat field with foreign music in the background. That's it. The paradise is really boring. Yeah, that's the end of the episode. I'm excited again to see what's gonna happen. I hope it's good. I honestly wish there was more talking between Steven and Mark throughout the show. Even in this episode, it's really just Steven trying to figure out really Mark's memory is. And Mark is like hesitant to explain things because he didn't want Steven to find out that he was the original, not Steven. Um, no, there's still more questions we got to figure out about that. Maybe that's like season two stuff. I didn't think they'd go super heavy into it, and they sort of didn't, but they at least mentioned it. They made an effort, and I like that. The CGI was not very good in this episode. Also, the CGI has not been very good at all in either any of these episodes. Um, Also, what else? The fighting. There was basically no fighting except for that last end scene. It was pretty bad. Um, okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. You guys have a good day, and see ya.